Welcome to the LCS waiting room. Week 3 of 6, meaning that this is going to be the end of the first round robin when we get through this week, so we'll be able to take standings of that. To do so, we should remind ourselves where we are right now. Let's pull these suckers up. I got there quick. I gave a really quick intro. Didn't give anyone a time to banter before I said, give me these standings.
You're fired.
You sapped the energy from the room, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm fired. You guys take it from here.
Well, we all expected FlyQuest to still be winless, right? That was definitely something.
Yeah, that was on my bingo sheet.
That is still the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, EG being 5-1 is pretty weird.
Yeah.
But FlyQuest being 0-6 is very weird.
And then there is something that's somewhat weird, which is Dignitas being 3-3 with the expectation of them being last place from a lot of people, I think including myself. But no, they're doing quite well, and the schedule is very doable for them this week.
I think it's also cool because Dignitas at the start of the year, when it was Jensen Santorin as the lineup, everyone was like, this team is probably like 5th, 6th. You know, like they were going to make playoffs in spring, and then they're the worst team. And now that they're like what we predicted initially, we're like, this is so weird that they're like not the worst.
Well, look at the schedule they have this week as well. 100 Thieves, TSM Energy.
Winnable.
All of those would be
doable.
considered winnable games.
Yeah.
So a 6-3 Dignitas would be quite shocking, but quite possible. Could be a fun week.
All right, let's move on ahead. MOTW, I don't remember what that stands for.
Moment of the week.
Moment
Match of the week.
Match of the week.
Moment of the week.
Moment of the, EG
Moment
versus
of the
C9
Wednesday?
coming on Friday, 2 p.m. First game of the day on Friday. Cloud9 versus EG. Both teams 5-1 right now. We'll see what they are by then.
Okay, match of the week is great and all, but what about match of the Wednesday? This is what we need to know more. That's the
We
real
do
question.
MOTF, MOTT.
Yeah.
People just lose
Is that
track.
a normal acronym?
Track of
Who
all
else
the
knew what that
acronyms.
meant?
I knew it immediately. Mark.
There's no way that wasn't match of the week.
It was
know why.
always going to be match of the
My
week.
bad, guys. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I think for C9, 5-1. How do you feel about C9? They're still top of the standings, but do you think, we were talking about it a little bit in the dive, like, do you think C9 is as good as last spring? Are they taking it a little easy maybe right now? Like, what's your read on them?
I feel like they were just playing really loose.
Yeah.
Really, really loose, because it didn't look like anyone could touch them. So that's a pretty dangerous mindset to be in. I think they probably snap out of it after losing to Dignitas.
Energy?
Energy.
Yeah.
Close enough.
EG and TL lost to Dignitas.
Yeah.
I think we saw this from them previously, though, even in spring, where they'd like occasionally try out the composition and maybe narrowly win on that, like play a little fast and loose with what they felt like they could do. I remember Sven answering your question, Raz, that I thought was really good, where he's like, I've been on a team that has gotten complacent. It felt awful. So we want to make sure we don't do that. So, I mean, I'm not worried about them at all.
Yeah. I'm also not worried about them. I think that interview, the Fudge interview with Digon, and just in general, it seems like the team is really motivated not to just do well in the regular season, but to do well internationally. And so they're trying to, as Sven said, like basically shadow box. But there's always that weird, like middle ground of we do want to play well, but we also want to be flexible. So when you try another composition out or style out and it doesn't work, you're like, damn, that's not us at our best. So it's gonna look bad. And also the other one, which is just NRG and that team always playing up when they play up against C9. So that's another thing that you gotta have to put in your mind, that Contracts is a little bit of a beast when it goes up against Blabber. So yeah, I think all of that happens. I have complete faith in C9.
All right, everyone's still feeling good about C9. We'll see where it goes from here. We talked about this as being the last week of the first round robin. We decided it's time to start thinking about end of season and end of year awards. Season awards.
End of season.
We're going to start with the way too early Rookie of the Year award. It is important to remember that this includes Spring Split. We just hand out one for all of 2023. So we're going to go ahead through who we are suggesting. Emily, who's your front runner?
Busio! Yeah, so I think initially, when Busio started in spring, people were very lukewarm on him in terms of he still made a lot of mistakes in lane and kind of coordinating with the team. I think he has improved a lot, and even though obviously 100 Thieves themselves definitely haven't had the start to spring that they would have wanted, I think Busio and Doublelift have grown into a really, really solid lane. And I think you can very visibly see like he came in the moments where he was a little bit more uncomfortable with the rest of the team, but now how much more comfortable he is. And in particular, in their last win, he was really pivotal in that. So I think he's improved a lot as a player throughout. And I think he's been the most standout rookie.
Agreed. I also said Busio. I think Busio as a player from Spring Split, even in Spring when he went into the playoffs, he had some incredible games. The Rakan games people recognized him for. The Blitzcrank game people won't talk about that much, but like that was also stellar, even if it was in a lost series. Going into this regular season, him and double-elimination have been honestly the spotlight of the team, and his engages have been finding them wins. His last game, the engage on mid lane, the engage in the later game team fights, like I felt like okay, they're winning because of his engages, and of course like how they have been laning. So it feels like he said it in his own interview when he was on stage that he felt like he just had a better understanding of the matchups and what he should be communicating and all that stuff. And you can definitely see it.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
And what?
About who should be rookie of the split. I think what you said about Busio was
Okay.
fine, but I just don't agree that makes him rookie of the split. For me, I actually I picked Yone.
Same.
Big brain, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, you actually,
We separated you two for a reason, to make that awkward.
Can't hold us apart.
Look at that hair.
He's crazy. I think Yone's actually been very good. I don't think he's been perfect. I think all the rookies this year have had their moments where they struggle, and I think for him, in some team fights, there's times where he could have played them better.
Yeah.
But the bot lane in Spring for Team Liquid was actually insanely good. They were winning most 2v2 matchups. They were getting tons of individual 2v2 kills. They were, a lot of ways, the best part of the early game for that team. And it's continuing so far in Spring. Team Liquid has rolled a lot of teams, and it's Core JJ and him pairing very well together.
Yeah, and when I was doing these way too early ones, I think I understood the assignment differently than other people. So you're probably going off of like from what we've seen from the start of Spring to now, and
Exactly.
giving it
Yes,
out.
that
But I'm
is-
thinking
that's
like
where I'm
I'm progressing a little forward. Like I think Yone is going to have an even bigger summer split. Like he's probably going to make an all-pro team, right?
Yep.
Which would just
Ooh.
almost shoe him in for rookie of the split if Team Liquid continues on their current trajectory.
Excuse me, what about for like other candidates? Because these two I think are the most obvious, but in terms of other people, there's Harry. Who else is potential? Like a lot of the EG guys actually don't qualify as much as they're new to the scene. All of them have been there before. Ayla
Exactly.
technically qualifies, I'm pretty sure.
Ayla could still make a run for it. Like if EG goes like
Because he played in OPL. That was
13-3 or something.
That was the same thing that I think that stopped Fudge, was the fact that he played in OPL. And it was the same thing that the reason why I didn't say M&S, because he had played in the OPL.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe it's not that. Well,
get
it's
an official
LCO
ruling.
now, but yeah.
I don't think it's the OPL thing that counts. I could be wrong, but I thought minor regions didn't stop you from being.
Someone needs to
That
get
was my understanding as well.
Yeah,
Someone
I think.
needs to get in our ear then, because then
I think M&S actually.
M&S actually is in the discussion.
now that you've said it, I'm like, wait a
changes
minute.
things.
This is why.
But I also, so
Raz.
I was also operating under the
Look, I
assumption
knew
that
it.
It's good,
M&S
it's
was
good.
not.
Well, because M&S
eligible.
also, to be fair, it wasn't just the OPL. He did TCL. He did a couple
TCL
other things,
as
but I
well,
don't
but
think
these are all minor regions.
They're all minor regions. So if there's
Yeah.
a blanket minor region thing, then maybe this is we might all need to adapt. We'll check in a
That's
second.
That's what sucks about this conversation. That's what
So
sucks.
at least for the segment that we just did, we weren't considering them. We were
Yes.
considering players that are having their first big league experience. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that we have forgotten other than them? Other
I mean,
than
there's quite a few that people wouldn't name. Like, for instance, Kenby's not having a great year.
Kenby played
Diamond-
last-
Can we play last year?
Oh, thank God. Anyways,
I was
Oh,
like,
no.
but now it's like, oh, never mind.
I'm going to tweak the rules after
I'm
this.
not gonna-
Tenacity is my rookie of the year, man. He was too good for people to handle. They moved into content creation because they couldn't take it. Someone clip this and send it to him.
There it is. Shill.
Yeah. All right. Well, I heard from my producer they're double checking to see if we have botched the rules live. We'll find out though. While we wait, those are our opinions on Rookie of the Year. It's also time to talk about MVP, but it's not going to be just us. Jojopyun already has thoughts on who he thinks is going to take it.
You tweeted at the LCS and said, just give me MVP already after that game. Why do you think you deserve the MVP only a third of the way into the split?
Because I don't know, all these other teams are frauds. Like I said yesterday, TL are frauds, and then we kind of on them today. You know, C9's pretty good, but I mean, they're all good, so who are you going to give the MVP to, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can play any role in that team and they'll be fine, so, I mean, I think it should be me. I'm just playing well.
One of my favorite parts about that is he gives the nod to like, well, everyone C9's good, so they
Yeah.
all take votes from each other. So obviously I'm MVP.
It's not the worst line of logic. It does happen, vote stealing. I think he is, someone tell me if you disagree,
I'm ready for this.
unanimous frontrunner for MVP.
Through 6 games, yes.
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 Hence the
Yes,
so far.
this is
Yes.
Because that entire team has played through mid, right? Armao has gone mid more than any other jungler has gone mid, but you go back to the things that give you enjoyment and success. So Armao just gets the dopamine hit every time he goes to JoJo's lane because good things happen.
Yeah.
It's already winning. He just
That's
gets to show
not-
up.
So he's just there and it helps out.
Winning level 1 versus
Yeah.
Gwyd, the Vikla matchup that he did extremely well in. This was all last week. Like overall, he has just been a stellar mid laner. And on top of that, I think whenever it gets really close between 2 candidates in your own head, you go into the thought process of like, well, who's more valuable to their team? And it's just clearly JoJo. He's super valuable in his team. Even if people around him aren't playing as well, he is the one that I think is smashing his lane, taking initiative in team fights, and also calming much more than he did in previous splits. So like this has been his year.
All those stats too said first amongst mid laners. He's also first just in the league in a number of those. I know his CSD is #1 overall, not just for mid laners. So yeah, hulking out.
Yeah, I also think like, again, to Raz's point, the idea of like what happens to this team when JoJo isn't performing like this is something we haven't necessarily seen yet, but it's something to consider in terms of how important he is to his team. And then additionally, to your point, I feel like we go through this with like AD carries as well, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're like they're getting fed gold, but also that is the point.
Yes.
So like
They get the gold
I've
because
also
they're
had to
good.
wrap my head around that too with like a player who's playing really well who doesn't get as many resources. But I do think that JoJo has also shown improvements elsewhere. And additionally, he's just absolutely crushing lane.
It's also a little frustrating that last split was so bad for him because it's like,
Well, it's because Inspired was his jungler.
Okay.
oh,
Clip
I
it!
love it.
Clip it!
Now he's got Armao.
Inspire was holding JoJo back this whole time. You give him a good jungler, look what happens.
Last 6 games with Armao, last 6 games with Inspired. Compare the stats. Same mid laner, different
This is
jungler.
what an experiment is. Control some variables, tweak some other ones. What changes?
Clip it and tag Inspired. We
Yeah.
need the drama farm to keep going. It doesn't matter if he means it or not.
I will say, to that point though, it was frustrating last year. Be like, bro, you're so good. Just
Yeah.
stop.
Dying inside lanes.
Yeah, and like I don't know if it was sophomore slump or maybe just like because he went to Worlds. People talk about this. Like you come back to North America for a long season in domestic regions, it can be a little hard to find that same like competition that drives you.
Yeah.
So maybe he just let his foot off the gas a little bit.
He's a kid.
He's a kid. He's so good.
Super young, super talented. You get complacent for sure. Through Summer Split, he is not complacent at all. I hope he can keep it up.
Also,
Go on.
oh no, I was gonna say the other thing. I know you brought it up, and we don't really like to necessarily include stuff like comms, but now that we are showing comms, how much JoJo actually talks and how much credit he's actually given Inspired for teaching him that has been really cool to see.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the I think unanimous front runner. Who
I
else?
do think
Yes.
Inspired deserved his MVP in 2022 summer.
Yeah, it's like don't.
In case I get
Inspired's
aggregated.
coming after you, man.
In case I get aggregated.
Yeah.
But-
No. Oh God.
Yeah, but
Okay, Bill Simmons.
and so like thing is, we're not even to the halfway point
No,
just
this
yet.
could change.
And so it's fair to talk about people who are either right next to him or can easily catch up to him. For me, it's going to be Summit. Summit has been performing incredibly well. One of the major reasons why Team Liquid is finding the success that they have been. He's still incredibly strong in lane. He's going into team fights and he's actually doing a lot of work. The Kennen pick that he's been blinding, of course, not only doing well in lane, but has been winning them a lot of team fights. And so I don't know what they had over there in the Netherlands,
Through Buffle.
but import that, ship it over to LA, and keep feeding it to him because he has been insane so far, and I think he's only going to get better.
I don't know if it's what they had versus what they didn't have in the Netherlands, because I think some ankle weights might have been shed.
Oh, there it is.
You've been on one.
I'm telling you, you hear those rumors, and it's the top laner who has this radical turnaround. I think, you look at Summit, he has always been a coin flippy player. Last split felt like the worst version of him might have ever seen.
Yeah.
And now he's back to like what you think he should be doing. He's not the perfect player. He goes for some plays, he dies sometimes, but he's insanely aggressive, and when they're working, he can be the best top laner in the league.
Yeah, I think the big change for me for Summit has been how he has actually entered team fights and coordinated with team fights, right? Because when we thought about his worst plays, they were never in lane. Like they were almost never in lane. It was always like he's TPing in mid, and the rest of his team is already engaged in the fight, and the fight is over, and they've lost. So I think outside of the one game against Dignitas,
Speaking of the one
shaky,
game.
I do think that he's looked so much better in terms of like his thoughtfulness and entry into team fights with the rest of the team.
Who was he playing against?
He was playing against this guy who's like the Hots faker.
like a really, really good
Valid.
player.
Really good top laner. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
How can Summit be MVP if he's not even the best top laner in the region?
Look at Rich.
It's Rich.
Look at that smile.
He is better
Solo
than
killed him
Rich.
multiple times in a row. Is he better than Rich? Then why do
Yes.
you keep getting solo killed by him, Raz?
That was one
Mark,
game.
did
The
you
best
put
of one.
together this
Yeah.
loop of Rich just
There's
staring at
a
the
game
camera?
where he played against Summit, and who was better
Him
in
or
that
Summit?
game?
In a best of one, he played
Well, small
better.
sample size, but who's better in it?
I mean, you're
I'm not
trying to
talking.
give Summit.
I'm not gonna answer that question.
So hold on, you're giving Summit MVP off of 5 good games and one. Like 5 is not that much more
Well,
than
and
one.
it wasn't like that was-
Across the board, better.
It's not the only game Rich played well in.
Rich has been good in multiple
Rich has
games.
won them multiple games.
Yeah, he's been good. You're right.
TL's
Not
won
better than
4
Summit.
games. Rich has won 3 games by himself.
Not better than Summit. Not better than Fudge. I can keep going.
I don't know. I don't
see.
know. Just classic Rich.
Not
hater.
better than
We'll
Licorice.
get back on track. Who else?
Blabber. Legitimately Blabber. Like they've lost 1 game. He is actually the leader of this team. He's worked with so many players well in the past. M&S I don't think has actually had a great start to the split. You haven't necessarily noticed it. Blabber is completely gapping other junglers in terms of CS and gold and damage. So he is still performing at a very high level. And if Cloud9 continues on their current trajectory, I think there's a very good chance that Blabber could win MVP. He was very close last week.
Ooh, actually, he's number 1 in CSC. It's higher than JoJo's.
Yeah,
I guess
it's,
that's
it's from that
It's
one.
going under
that,
the radar.
That one game where he just absolutely like took over. So I think there is an absolutely legitimate case for Blabber. I also think it's funny that you, Jat, are just continuing the Blabber MVP narrative from spring. But then generally, this is such a good meta for Blabber as well.
Yeah.
Like this is absolutely perfect for what he likes to do. We already gave him so much credit in spring for finding ways to counter jungle in a meta where
Right.
it wasn't super suitable. And I've been super impressed with Blabber's summer performance.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of turnover in the jungle standings from spring. Like Speaka's not playing as well, Inspire's out of the league, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like with the one constant year after year is Blabber's basically top 2 jungler in the league.
Yeah. I was trying to do it internally, just like think about, okay, restructuring who I think is like the best junglers in the league. And I remember last split, I had Pyosik as, bottom 5. And suddenly I think he's top 3. I was like, wait a minute. That shift is insane.
Yeah.
Jungle be like that.
It would be like that
Changes
sometimes.
so
Except for
much.
Blabber.
Yeah.
Except for that's how good he is.
He is a great player. And I wanted to actually mention Berserker as a right now current MVP, having a silently strong split. Once again, your stat
Yeah,
segment showcased how well he was doing. And it felt like he edged over Prince and was able to win the MVP in a photo finish in the final game. So you have to remember that. It's like Cloud9 is still the top team in the league, even if tied. And by the end of the split, people are going to be singing the praises of every one of those members, including Berserker, and you mentioned Blabber. So there's a lot to go through. I love this conversation. Hey, VG
It
keeps
is
doing what they're
way
doing.
too early.
Yeah.
But it's also 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's so
It's
weird.
such a short split.
Yeah, it's very weird to be like, all right, we've played 2 weeks of games. Who do you think's going to win the MVP?
Also, the last time LCS did a split that was 18 games across 3 weeks with 3 match days a week, you know who won MVP?
Ooh.
It was Blabber.
Blabberfish.
Boom.
2021 spring.
Boom.
He thrives in the compressed schedules. Like, he's behind the scenes lobbying. Like,
It means nothing. This whole lead up is just like, it's the same guy. So,
Like, all
Like he's
right.
in the gulag, just drowning, just in the game. He's like, yes, I am playing at my best. Don't give me time to breathe.
All right, like we said, still a lot more games to play despite how short it's been so far. Let's go ahead and look at what's coming your way today, starting off with EG versus TSM. Another team we didn't touch on very much at the top of the day today, so we'll dig into them in a second. Then FlyQuest versus Team Liquid, NRG versus Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves versus Dig, and C9 versus Immortals. Favorite game today, go.
I'm actually super curious for 100 Thieves versus Dig. These are like 2 major question marks from both of these teams, and whoever shows up on today is going to be better.
TL FlyQuest for me.
You can't stop watching it. It's a train wreck in
look away.
motion.
I cannot look away.
He's invested. I'm not saying this because you guys already took the 2. I actually think NRG versus Golden Guardians, because Golden Guardians started slow, are really strong right now. But NRG is a team that we've talked about big surprises. never would have expected them to, in my mind, make upgrades and then perform incredibly poorly and be in the bottom 2. So this could just propel them in 2 and 5. They have been playing better, so I think in this game I'm expecting it to be competitive, but it would be really bad for the team and the fans mentally if they take this loss hard. Then you're like, well, I guess they're just a bad team now.
Better not lose then.
Better not lose.
Weeks feel very swingy when you play 3 games in them for some reason. That one extra game can really define how your season feels like it's going.
Yeah.
So we're going to go look ahead at game 1 now, actually, which was EG versus TSM. Raz, you have some stuff to talk about with how good EG's been playing?
How have they been good?
So we've been talking a lot about just how strong they are. I wanted to talk about the first 8 minutes immediately, so if we could just roll the stats of this. This is just prior to this play, 23 minutes into the game. And I'm just talking about how well they've done in lane overall. So just, it feels like, as you can see, top side of the map, this is just first 8 minutes, but like they have been able to get leads within their matchups, and then 14 minutes in, specifically Revenge has, even in a counter matchup, a CS advantage. He's been performing well in that specific matchup. So I wanted to point that out specifically because Summit didn't lose in lane to anyone in this league for the first 8 and then 14, but in this case that was different. So I wanted to then now talk about this play, because this play is mostly about the setup and how Evil Geniuses not only can set up around the objectives quite well and plan for it, but then of course execute. So first things first, no flash on Harry, no flash on Yone. These are prior plays. In fact, just a minute ago, Yone gets a flash burn because Armao was able to burn it with his ultimate. He doesn't have ulti right now, but that's not important to this fight. So we play it. First thing I want to show to you is, even though we see them completely, I want to see where the control wards are. So we start right here. Control ward in the line bush, control ward in the dot bush, and a control ward up here. So that allows Jojopyun to basically be able to threaten here. So now it's going to be tough on Harry or Yone or Core JJ to walk up. And Eyla, who is getting pushed out by Summit, is chilling here. I forgot to mention this 4th control ward, which is allowing Eyla a chance to be able to wrap around in the flank and support and engage on the carries that don't have flash. So that start is already amazing. Jojopyun recognizes Harry is here, so they change plans immediately. They call an audible. So he pushes Harry back, Eyla regroups with the team, and now what you have here is actually a 3v5. Summit is in Africa, and Harry is in Antarctica. So if you're just looking at this and seeing Evil Genius's chances, you see Yone start with an Ashe ulti, but you're actually in a bad state now. We're on to the execution stage, which is immediately Jojopyun goes in, Revenge immediately follows. He's low as an HP, but he recognizes if he can get in front of 3 of them, he can just start the fight and regain a lot of that with Gore Drinker. And so they're able to pick up a lot of kills off that, because even though the initial plan started poorly, right? Team Liquid understood that they should be able to push out their flanks. They regrouped. They immediately executed on the play that Jojo initiated with Revenge coming through. So these team fights have been working out really well, which is why you just give them their praises. Not just confetti for this team fight, but confetti for just how they have been playing well this split. So give them a lot of credit. They are getting a lot of credit. I think right now a lot of it is centered around Jojo, but the team as a whole have been playing well in lanes. Yeah. And they have been executing in team fights.
Yeah, and that's all. That play right there is all about decisiveness. Like you wait another second, and Summit and Harry can actually just collapse on the flanks and probably win the fight. But they went during the window. Like, you just need to have trust and decisiveness to pull off plays like that.
Really good stuff out of EG. Their opponent today, TSM, which is coming with a roster move. If people have not heard, there's a question of, is it going to be Ruby or Insanity? The decision is in. It is Ruby. And in order to highlight some of his strengths, we actually have Peter Dunn here to break some of them down. So take a listen.
I would describe Ruby as a very strong individual 1v1 laning player. His best champions are probably Ahri and Azir. Azir because he's able to exert lots of pressure in that 1v1, and I think that Ahri is a pick that teams will typically ban against him, especially because Ahri is a very strong pick in the meta. On these picks like Ahri and Vladimir, he's very, very good at flanking, he's very good at spotting individual opportunities within teamfights, and he's very good at creating space for his teammates. And I would say the biggest thing that TSM can do to make the most out of him is give him champions that have agency, but on champions where he knows he needs to playmate, where he knows he needs to go aggressive, he can force a lot of mistakes from the enemy team. And I think that that's something that WildTurtle and the rest of the TSM team will be well placed to exploit going into Summer Split.
Nice to hear from Peter, after having some hands-on experience working with Ruby. What do you guys think about him coming into play today?
Last split. I would like it a lot more, and this may sound weird. I would like it a lot more if he didn't have any visa issues and was here week 1. I think he would get a lot more support from the community if that was the situation. I think actually right now, based off of my own past experience and seeing these types of things play out, I personally don't think this is the right time for TSM to sub him in. I think, generally speaking, when you have a player in the chair who is doing well, you kind of have to wait for them to stop doing well before you put in the next guy, almost regardless of the promises you've made behind the scenes or what's happened in scrims. So to me, the only thing Ruby can do here to appease the community is hard carry games. Because if he starts 0-2, he is immediately going to get scapegoated, and that's going to make his life so much harder. So I actually think this is a very difficult situation to be putting Ruby into, and I do actually hope he succeeds, because it's not like every player is going to want to play. But the fact that Insanity, as a domestic player who was playing well after not having a shot for the LCS, is now, quote, getting subbed out for Ruby, who was the intended starter the whole time, it makes Ruby have to perform at an extremely high level to appease the community.
Yeah, it's interesting marrying that with some of the stuff that Peter said in like what he thinks Ruby is good at, because with the way Insanity's been playing, it's like get shove in mid, regardless, right? And then Bugi has all of the agency to kind of do whatever he wants. And that doesn't sound a lot like what Ruby's strengths are, right? Like Peter's like, put him on something with a lot of agency. Obviously, like Ari can shove out the wave and go to sides and stuff like that. But like, it is a slightly different play style. So I'm also including that in my head in terms of, okay, are they just going to put him on these pushing mids like what they did with Insanity? Are they going to play more to his strengths? Because that seems a little bit differently than how TSM have been playing thus far this split.
The one thing I will say is that as much as we've given Insanity credit on TSM, there are other members playing well. I think Turtle has been incredible so far. He actually leads the league in a lot of lanes.
And they are coming off of 1 and 2 week. So there's a lot of building blocks still for the team to build on. Raz, we haven't let you get in yet.
Oh, yes. And I agree with the point that it's not just Insanity. The setup for objectives overall, I think they're a smarter team than they were last year, just flatly. I think that Chime has been a really good as well. I know a lot of people will talk about his Rakan being what he's most known for, but even if he's on the champion, I think that they coordinate well with the team, which is another concern that I have. You add any new member halfway through the split, then you will lose a little bit of that coordination. But I'll, give him a chance. We'll see how he plays, and I think that's the underlining take.
But also, Jojo has been playing so well, and he's playing against him in the first game.
Oh, no.
Welcome to AA, baby.
But
just
listen,
like Quid. First opponent was Jojo.
If he has a pop-off game, you have to give Ruby the credit.
Yeah.
It's
right?
true. It's
so
true.
We have to see what happens.
We've seen people go against Jojo in the first game. Doesn't always go well. Let's take a look if anyone believes it's going to happen, though, with our predictions. Is anyone taking TSM here? No, not at all. 91% going EG.
Jet.
Way.
What?
The Faith.
What?
You have FlyQuest winning.
Do you know how many games they won in Spring, Raz?
A lot of games.
A lot of games.
I guess I'm the only one with Rich Faith as well. What the hell? At least the community is like more split
They know
on it,
it's
and I can just
close.
say those are double-it fanboys believing in 100 Thieves still. It's Rich. Rich is gonna win this.
Yeah, I feel like this one I almost went Dignitas either. I'm actually surprised it isn't more split, and that's also the least close game from the community as well, with like only 56%.
Yeah, that one I feel like is more of a fan vote, because it should be closer. 56 is pretty close to be fair, but when I was seeing the votes come in, huh?
That's almost 50-50.
Yeah, well, when I saw the votes coming in initially, it seemed like it was going pretty heavily towards 100 Thieves. But if you look at the actual games right now, Dignitas literally looks better. Yes, it's close to 50-50, but I think it's very, very charitable.
All right, well, that's game 4. We have game 1 first waiting for us on the other side of this. EG and TSM comes up next.
Bienvenidos. It is the start of week 3 for LCS, baby, and we've got TSM EG coming right your way. It's Raafaa and Kobe back at it again with some more fire games.
Excited for this one. Ruby's first LCS game. How's it going to go? TSM, they've been overperforming people's expectations so far. So I just feel like it is hard to come in now as someone who is intended to be on the roster and have to live up to what Insanity has been able to accomplish here.
Yeah.
We do expect TSM to draft, at least I do, a very straightforward team fighting composition. They've had so many tanks for Hauntzer. It's all tanks for Hauntzer, especially with the early Malphite picks for him. And Bugi as well in the jungle, been playing so much of the Maokai and frontline junglers that I just feel like that setup with the Ruby's affinity for Azir should be a match made in heaven for a team fight composition. And EG already here in the bans, they're targeting that Maokai I'm talking about. I really do think that's the best team fighting jungler left. And so let's see, the Azir is left up. If TSM want to get him his most played champion, his comfort pick, the premier, team fight blind pick mid lane right now, if they want to get that back in trade for the Milio.
Yeah, almost 40 games over his entire career for the past few years since 2018 when he was playing on Freak of Freaks, and now making the tumultuous journey to LEC for Team Heretics last spring, and now here in NA, his debut in LCS, and you're going up against the best mid laner in NA right now, baby, against Jojopyun, so good luck. They did get the Azir, so that's a good start for TSM here, Kobe.
Exactly what we wanted, exactly how we draw it up, and the Kai'Sa to follow, so we assume TSM want to pair that with a Nautilus or something for the bottom lane to go kill pressure into a Milio lane, regardless of what Unforgiven's going to show here. Personally, I really like the Lucian and go super aggressive, but you are going to face into an Azir already, and that range later is pretty annoying. So maybe they would rather a longer range partner like a Jinx for the Milio, and we'll see. Maybe they can even drop AD carry past bans and get their front line first here. Sejuani Renekton is a deceptively very good 2v2 because of the stun lock possibilities. Renekton stun, multiple auto attacks it counts for, and so it stacks up Sejuani passive to stun right after Renekton stun. And you can definitely, especially if you target enemy jungle in those 2v2s, get some nice burst kills early on.
Yeah, surprisingly powerful 2v2 skirmishing combo as well. Everyone will sleep on the tank side of the matchup, but you give Renekton an empowered stun after the permafrost as well. I mean, man, then you're in a world of trouble. As we head into the second round of bans, the Rakan for Chime, another classic comfort here for TSM. They now need to look at what they're going to pick for the jungle for Bugi, as you already mentioned, because the Maokai and the Vi is gone. You can look to things like maybe a Wukong here for team fighting power.
I think they need to start banning out some of these AD carry combinations we mentioned. I guess they don't care about it. They're much more worried about defending Ruby against Jojo, which is valid. Jojo is definitely the best laning mid laner, and I would say the best mid laner overall so far in Summer. So they're very scared about him playing into Ruby. Plus, maybe they want to pick the Malphite for Hauntzer on the top side too, so they ban out the Sylas. Since they were looking at picking that, and EG read the Sylas pick as a Malphite pick, so then they ban the Malphite, and you see the ping pong here.
Another AD carry ban, it is the Draven. If there's one thing that they want to get out of the laning phase is not dealing with a huge lane bully, something like that for Unforgiven. I imagine the other good lane combination, if it's not the Lucian, then maybe something like an Aphelios, as the Aphelios Milio has been so powerful this split.
Yeah, the Draven is just the most difficult one because of the stand aside is so annoying for the Rakan. And the combination with the Milio actually gives you that laning power. So do like that ban there too. And which tank will it be for Hauntzer? Because as I said at the beginning, definitely expect front tank line here from them. They do get the K'Sante, the preferred top lane matchup. I will say Renekton does quite well into the K'Sante though, so it's not like he's picking that into a good matchup. He's picking it as TSM want front line here. They want a standard team fight. So I do expect them to go with something similar in jungle as well.
Please do the rat. I would love the rat.
I would love the Neela, but it's not going to happen.
We don't get either of our wishes, Kobe. We're going to go with the Varus instead.
All right, Varus, definitely quite strong right now. Isn't going to get nerfs until the next patch, which just actually hit live today, so you can play it at home. But Varus can definitely go with the static Shiv build. Definitely has good AP routes right now that synergize quite well with it. Zoe as well, a mid laner that I think is very good at utilizing static Shiv.
Yeah!
Won't get locked in, but it is the kill matchup into the Azir. The Akali, the Yone are those assassin kill matchups into the Azir mid lane. And Jojo, you know, always wants to play super aggressive, especially against mid laners that have just arrived in the LCS. And it pairs extremely well with the Sejuani. So love all these synergies that Evil Geniuses are stacking up here. This champion select looks very aggressive from them. And I definitely would favor Evil Geniuses seeing this right now. Nocturne coming out to support in the jungle here. Bugi picking that one up. The cover of darkness allows Kai'Sa movement around team fights a lot more too. When you're facing so much dive in Yone, Sejuani, Renekton, any little bit of cover is going to help.
Yeah.
And Kai'Sa plus Nocturne, possible dive follow-ups there on the Rakan engage. So TSM, not too shabby with the synergies they've been able to build for themselves, but it just looks like a very difficult onslaught of especially aggro topside for Evil Geniuses, with both solo laners playing off of an aggressive Armao.
Yeah.
An Armao who's come into the league performing extremely well and has some pretty good synergies with those solo laners.
Yeah, Evil Geniuses asking the big question. Ruby, do you have what it takes to stand up for yourself and be able to match against Jojo for wave priority? Because if you can't, then the top side of the jungle is going to be invaded upon by Armao. You can bet that he's going to use Jojo and Revenge's prio to try and invade onto Bugi, prevent him from getting to level 6 where he gets access to that paranoia and can start rolling the game for TSM. Because if TSM do not make proactive plays around paranoia, then what are you picking the champion for? And every single ultimate with the long ultimate cooldown timer in the early game makes it so that you need to make them count.
All right, let's get into it. Ruby's first game has arrived for TSM. Got his most played champion of all time. They got him some comfort here with the Azir, and a very good time in the meta to pick up Azir as well, with everybody jumping on board after those buffs of the previous patch. Chime getting a little bit sneaky here. Maybe they could get a summoner spell or something. Any little advantage for Ruby in the mid lane?
Yeah,
Jojo sometimes does get a little friendly early on, dancing around, emoting.
I don't think EG saw Chime grand entrance over the wall, so they're in complete fog right now.
Not, yeah.
If Jojo steps up, might be the angle here. Jojo, don't be greedy, brother.
Looks like it should be all good. The other route that you usually want to watch versus Rakan is over the back of the Dragon Pit here, because you can go with some level 1s where you surprise them there. And so Eyla walking back and forth here does get visual confirmation. EG don't have to spend a defensive ward there or anything, and they actually just go for the pretty deep one into the river here.
No shenanigans will occur for either side of the team, so it should just be normal. Jojo, I see you just trying to take the Raptors here and look for a little bit of an early trade by having that third proc of Mortal Steel ready to harass Ruby in lane.
Yep, charge up the Qs so you can get your wave priority. You want to pressure this Azir, start that wave push as early as possible. And he is going to be able to do it. Nocturne usually prefers full clears. You actually do have an okay duel versus a lot of matchups. Sejuani's not one of them, because Sejuani can just leave anytime you try and duel her. And so should just be a full clear for the Nocturne, especially considering TSM's scaling potential to end on down towards the bottom side. So I like the call from Armao to also match that top side down clear on the Sejuani to try and get to that pushing Varus lane. And that's what you change with that late game or that late champion select pick of the Varus for Evil Geniuses. They get that push on the bottom side into the Kai'Sa Rakan here, and should be able to get a decent amount of harassment done under the tower. See how many of these they can deny. Already have done a decent job and come out with a decent early lead, honestly.
Armao's going to be first here on the river. He skipped both his Krugs and Raptors so he can make the early invade. Might look to catch Bugi before he gets to his blue buff, and they're both level 3, so there's no level difference for either jungler here, and Armao is now putting the pressure, stalling and preventing Bugi from getting level 4, so this slows down Nocturne's clear speed, and even if Armao doesn't get this blue buff off of Bugi, it's just all stalling time, because now they'll both be level 3 by the time Scuttlecraft spawns.
Trying to get as much off of his pushing bottom lane as he could, but Nocturne is beating him up. Forces the flash. Nicely done there from Bugi, chasing him out, making Armao pay. And we were talking about it in Champ Select. Armao has been so good for Evil Geniuses so far, being very aggressive, working off of Jojo pushing lanes mostly. In this case, he was trying to work off bottom pushing lane and did get a little bit too close to the Nocturne. Yeah. And once that huge trail of the extra speed is on you, it took a lot of damage. Unforgiven also taking a decent amount of damage here as Chime having the confidence to go in, knowing that the Sejuani has been fully chunked out and is just going to be on a tiny sliver of health clearing her jungle. So nice little opportunity there. They do get the Ghost is already down for Unforgiven in exchange for the early heal that they had been able to blow. But looks pretty nice there for Bugi being able to now reverse clear right back up to that top side.
Now, the fact that Bugi was able to get Armao's flash, I think that totally works out in TSM's favor. Yeah, his level 6 is a bit stunted at the moment, but I mean, you've delayed a lot of pressure from Armao being able to help this bottom side of the map, and it's already resulted in Summoner Spell advantage for the bottom side. As now, a heal being popped by Eyla, they want the movement speed. They're looking on the advantageous side of the trade. They just push him out here.
And I'd actually even say Bugi's level 6 is super on pace. It didn't actually get anything stolen in there, so doesn't really stunt it. And honestly, with 36 CS here off of the reverse clear 2 at 5 minutes, should be on a decent pace. 2 pressure, maybe Jojo in mid lane.
Sure.
You know, with a player that likes to play so aggressively, maybe they can leverage Bugi's Nocturne level 6 early play in there. Again, so many eyeballs on Ruby here. See if the team can kind of play around him. Maybe get Chime a support recall timer as well. If you bring Rakan plus the Nocturne, definitely have everything necessary to be able to punish a Yone. As long as you get real close for the ultimate, then he's not going to be able to gain a lot of distance there, and can definitely burn up the flash at the very least.
Chime is here in the mid lane, but Eyla as well, and the ward being dying out means now that TSM realize that EG have full information, that they are wary of this potential play looking on the mid lane. Since Jojo has been beating up Ruby in the CS department, a lot of the pressure, they need the pressure relief for Ruby, but the fact that EG are matching it just means that Ruby has to suffer a little bit more.
So we continue the farm pace here. Small leads for Evil Geniuses out of the laning phase. Yeah, mid lane, which we're looking at the Yone pick, but also on top side, Revenge, you know, pushing an extra wave into Hauntzer, and we'll see how many of those CS Hauntzer can get as Yone can easily just snap back. Yeah, it's not gonna get any extra damage there. 1 tower shot taken, and Jojo has ult advantage, but Bugi is hovering now to help Ruby have the security to get this lane in, this wave in.
Jojo would have to be pretty ballsy to look for an all-in, even with Ruby's health being that high. Armao is also waiting in this pocket just to make sure. He knows that Bugi might be hovering for Jojo's crash, as Ruby now will look to take wave priority and both junglers resume. So, I mean, this game is really just about protecting Ruby at all costs, making sure that he doesn't suffer a huge detriment to this Yone, because we've seen Yones in the past before. If they get a huge lead, they just take over the game.
Nice chunk damage from the Evil Geniuses bottom lane. So all lanes winning for EG out of Champion Select. And one of the reasons you highlight in Champ Select the 3 pushing winning lanes here, this is what you want to accomplish in the early stages of the game. Ideally, they could have gotten a little bit more, you know, playing off those and going super aggressive with jungle, but they're definitely set up nicely so far with over 1,000 gold lead from pure laning from them with some advantageous matchups. And the double range poke on bottom side is about to get worse, because once Varus gets level 6, then you actually can have some kill pressure namely towards the Rakan, not even towards WildTurtle since he's taking cleanse, but you can really punish Rakan. If Rakan goes in for a bad engage, Milio can kick him, and then you can get the ultimate from Varus combo. Jojo goes for an ult. Does not get the kill, but does get the push out pressure, and Ruby has already used TP.
It seemed like there was some hesitation there. Jojo thought about, oh, do I kill this guy? Whatever, I'll go for it. And it doesn't quite hit the Fate Seal, but you know what? It's all about sending a message, making sure that Ruby is uncomfortable. He has the wave pressure and the priority so that regardless, EG will still get this Rift Herald on time.
Yep. Push in mid off that trade, push on top as well the entire time from Revenge with the Renekton, so easy for Armao. And now once you're level 6 with Sejuani and you've got Rift Herald in hand, we may see the first big play from EG and the snowball start to actually pop off. TSM will take the other half of the map, the Constellation Dragon, which is decent for them to be able to grab, but it is a calculated move by Evil Geniuses because you want to snowball with this team. You want to get the most out of the turret plate stage of the game because there's so much gold on the map to be able to take, and they're set up to do that. So now we track Armao. Where's this Sejuani ultimate gonna go? Where's this Rift Herald gonna go? Revenge has done his work on the top side with his Demolish, has been able to get 2 turret plates already, look like even 3 turret plates for himself, 1 on bottom by hand as well. There we go. Only 1 left remaining and already doing the dirty farming.
Yeah, and now the pressure is up to Bugi because we have not seen this paranoia yet. He did hit level 6 just a couple minutes ago, but now the question is, does he want to use it aggressively or use it defensively? Once again, Jojo, in this interaction, because you have the soul on bound, even if he throws out the Emperor's Divide, he just blinks right on back to the starting position.
Yep, and that's the aggressive nature of the matchup we keep highlighting for the Yone picks into it. Chime.
Oh, great look by Chime. Good roam timer as well, and the paranoia, the first use is beautiful for TSM. First blood to Bugi.
That's that combination, Raafaa. The Chime roam plus Bugi ultimate level 6. Exactly as they drew it up. Nocturne ult and Rakan ultimates. Jojo goes over a little bit too close. Chime doesn't even have to flash or anything. No time for Jojo to react then. You get charmed into knock up into dead with all the damage. So very good first blood for TSM, but Evil Geniuses are still able to get the extra push here with their resets. And Revenge doing a bit of extra bullying. Armao coming to help. They can get the kill and the tower if Hauntzer goes back too far.
Throw out the Glacial Prison, and it's just a flash trade from Hauntzer. They push him off. This should guarantee maybe 1 more plate off of the Demolish proc, but they're not going to use the Rift Herald to take down the turret just yet.
Revenge, there's so many positive things to talk about with this EG lineup, but the Revenge signing is definitely one a lot of people were happy to see as he slice and dices away from the Q3 from Hauntzer. He doesn't get hit by much at all in that trade. Absolutely stomps on in there, and yeah, has taken 4 of the turret plates on top side, so making good use of the Renekton advantage.
Chime does not have ulti, but he does force Jojo away, so it doesn't look like he actually got any of the gold off of the crash. Only the plate gold went to Armao. And Ruby's going to stop him from recalling, which is a little bit of a nuisance. But EG now back to their set plays, waiting for their next Glacial Prison timer.
They want to attack Jojo again. He dodges the ultimate and gets out with his own. Very nice.
It's really close that no one from TSM was able to cut him off during the Fate Sealed. Otherwise, that was definitely at least a Jojo flash or a Jojo dead on the screen.
Saves his flash, cleans up the rest of the wave, and he does have teleport back and ready too, so even with the extra damage on there, should be able to get his reset and teleport back out for the remainder of the wave. TSM off that pressure though. Bugi roaming with Chime yet again. Eyla's level 6, so they have the Milio ultimate for the cleanse.
Chime looking for another engage. Ruby over the wall. Bugi with the tether onto Armao, and he's able to get out alive. And the fear just sends him running. They have WildTurtle in their back pockets here, but they're just going to take the Blastcone over because they know that they do not want to fight the full onslaught of EG.
Yeah, fair enough. You know, you get a Rakan ultimate, trade for a Milio ultimate, and Varus tried to get the counter there too, so it's a 2-for-1 cooldown trade for TSM as they're able to slip out afterwards, and now their bottom lane doesn't have to worry about that full kill pressure from the Varus coming in. You know, Sork Shoes and Static Shiv, that is a burst spike here for the Varus. So kind of nice to have that Varus ultimate down for a little bit.
All out from Hauntzer, but it's still a lot of damage from Revenge, as he's got quite the bit of damage to back up from this Dominus as he just walks on out, ultimate for ultimate trade, but the pressure on top lane is starting to collapse and fall under Hauntzer's will.
Yeah, this is what drafting some good matchups will look like for you, as well as being able to keep up that execution out of pure minions and turret plates, plus Rift Herald. 3.2k, the gold lead for Evil Geniuses, and Revenge. 2v1.
Bugi
Nocturne ultimates.
I don't think he'll even need it. He can just walk in line. Hauntzer is still low, but Revenge with the fear cannot do anything, and it's another pickup for Bugi on the top side of the map.
TSM do have good scaling, and they are getting some little bits of money here and there with the extra kills. They got the first blood bonus. They get another little trade kill here. You know, your first tower is killed off by the Renekton, and it's a very rich Renekton, but at least they get the kill back on him in payments. And now TSM also stopped the dragon on the other side of the map for the time being.
I mean, this is solid stuff from TSM. You know, the laning phase wasn't going their way necessarily, but in terms of their macro and team fighting, they might be able to loop around here. Teleports coming in from both Revenge and Hauntzer. Glacial Prison right into the middle. Ruby goes golden with the stasis, and it's Evil Geniuses that secure the dragon, but Chime, masked by the darkness of Paranoia, finds a nasty flank onto the backline of Evil Geniuses, but do they have the damage to back it on up? Bugi is forced to flash. The shutdown goes over the Revenge, and Evil Geniuses find vengeance and strike true into the heart of TSM.
Oh my goodness, it looked like a big flank here. Nocturne ultimate, turns out the lights, Chime goes in, gets the big knockup, but EG are so rich. We mentioned, even with Renekton going down, still very rich. Revenge comes back, and they wipe the team fight there. Let's take a look at it. So 4 members grouped up here. The teleports are far away from the rest of them. By the way, didn't see even a smite on that dragon. Went down to 1 HP, and Varus got it. Had it. Chime goes in, he got the big charm into knockup, then Bugi went in with the ultimate afterwards too, but look at the return damage here. Revenge goes right into the center, big Q, had the Gore Drinker as well, so was not worried in the slightest, and Jojo over the top on that Yone. Means they're able to clean up this team fight, no problem for Evil Geniuses, and extend the gold lead in addition to getting the dragon, since Varus was able to get it at 1 HP.
Yeah. Now we're at 5,000, an advantage for the side of Evil Geniuses. Second Rift Herald should be theirs to spawn. And you see the items being completed already. Multiple first item spikes were already completed prior to that fight, and now they're already well on their way to their second item. So this is going to be very tough for TSM. A lot of the gold was mostly an advantage of Bugi, but then him going down gives that shutdown back over to Evil Geniuses. So at this point, as TSM, what is your next play?
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to scale this whole game, but they've just been bleeding too much. EG have been very good at extracting CS leads in all 3 lanes, plus a bunch of turret plate money. So as much as you're trying to play defensively and scale for TSM,
yeah,
it's just your curve is a little bit too slow due to Evil Geniuses' advantages here. So yeah, you want to say keep scaling, but don't let EG continue to increase as quickly as possible. Try and minimize your losses. Bugi's pretty far from the rest of his teammates, so.
I mean, he shuts out the lights for a haha gotcha, but for Evil Geniuses, they just walk right back on up. Chime is forced to get the hell out of there, and now Evil Geniuses, I mean, they don't get any kills off of it, but they're showing that their strength is far superior to TSM at this point of the game.
Yeah. Let's see, for TSM.
Fate sealed over the wall, looking for the damage calculation. Will the Soul Unbound Mark do enough? But he gets charmed up, and TSM punished Jojo.
All right, that's the plan, Raafaa. You get delivered money. You know, they just lose their mid tower. They're just trying to rotate back over and clean up the rest of their jungle camps, get that bottom wave. They get delivered a little bit of Yone money. Perfect. All according to plan.
It's no longer a game about proactive plays. It's waiting for the other team to int first. And now Jojo thought this look was good. Unfortunately for him, Ruby had all of his omens.
Yeah, and this is good CC layering. So the key there's no point at which Jojo can snap back his soul, because right out of the Ruby knockup, Chime had not finished recalling, so they get boom. You're knocked up by the Azir, you're knocked up by the Rakan. Now Rakan might be on the receiving end, Sejuani could have gotten off that stun, then might have been able to finish off something, but Chime slips out of range. No permafrost stun there for Armao. Regardless, though, it is still such a massive lead for Evil Geniuses that they can control the map, and they can continue to both get dragon stacking, but as well look at early turns off of Baron. Because of the fact they have so much good turn potential with a Varus and a Yone ultimate, as well as Sejuani ultimates, this early lead for Evil Geniuses is going to kind of bloom out extra EG vision through the jungle. Thank you, observers. And continue to increase their control of these objectives on the map. So the pace from EG's side.
Oh, Paranoia onto the bottom side of the map. Jojo already used Fate's Seal, but Bugi flashing after wants to get the kill for TSM, but Jojo throws in the thumbs up. Nice try, bro. Better luck next time, as Evil Geniuses are going to win out on the turret pushing war on the top side.
Yeah, nice escape to be able to get the extra Q charge right there and just barely live. Flash use from Jojo, but in trying to get that play started, Ruby also used his, so you take that into account. The Azir might be more vulnerable in the next team fight. If EG can find a flank, Unforgiven is fine. And the dragon is coming up, so Unforgiven needs to get his reset off back to base, and Ruby just used his teleport to topside. So you would expect that the comms right now for TSM are to give up this dragon. It is not worth dying over. Like we said, you've got a ways to go to make up this 6.5k ground versus Evil Geniuses.
Yeah.
And you would much rather make a cross-map play, maybe see how low is that turret on top side. They've got multiple members up there. It looks like the turret is full health, but they're going to do their best to make a cross-map play.
Jojo trying to put a dent into Hauntzer, but with the Thornmail Rush, Jojo's not doing that much damage, so for TSM, at least they can have some stable ground. But if EG decide to bring multiple members, then, well, TSM might just have to answer on back. So WildTurtle is kept here to make sure that Hauntzer has another buddy to make sure the turret does not go down.
I think EG right now, since they saw the cross-map play extending time going for the turret, they wanted to get a little bit more. But TSM actually had a decent defense on bottom side, and as long as Hauntzer doesn't die here, TSM did a fairly good job of minimizing losses.
They recalled, and now they use the Paranoia, forcing the flash out of revenge. And they dodge on the Glacial Prism, but there's not enough damage to follow up on taking down the Crocodile.
And a little bit slow on the flash. You know, the Fear Tether already broken by the Renekton flash, and so Bugi wanted to flash follow, but you have to be immediate with that. Ruby's still looking. They want another pass at this Crocodile with no flash. Seems a little lofty.
Unfortunately for them, there's still a tower down there, so we could just run under, and then the play would be defective. TSM now forced to answer back on the push in mid lane. Evil Geniuses now have an opportunity. There's no TSM members, there's no Paranoia to jump and capitalize on them, so they can get some vision control into this Baron side of the map.
Yeah, we're gonna get a reset pretty quick and head on over to see if the Baron turns will be successful. EG already cleaned out all the vision around Baron, then they can start it and look for picks. Looking for the turn, though. Sejuani ultimate is actually down, so Varus ultimate has to be a big playmaker in.
They got the charm down on a Jojopyun, and he's going to use Fate Seal to get out of there, but Unforgiven finds a trade on a WildTurtle. Ruby is searching for Jojo, but Jojo's already saved, and he doesn't have teleport, but he's going to get the recall off, and TSM have lost both their jungler and their AD carry. EG got everything that they wanted. They didn't even need to take the Baron, and they have a minion wave to work with. Maybe they can push for more, but it looks like they're just going to return back to Baron.
Yeah, that's why you're always looking for the turn, and they actually get it there. It comes a little bit in a different form with Jojo going headfirst in yet again. This time, again, he actually escapes with a sliver of HP and ults out to the side. Unforgiven locking it down using his Varus ultimate to complete that one and actually getting the pick. Then the rest of the team can just go pick up Baron afterwards as Jojo.
Is he going to look for the all-in? Oh, not quite. Not enough damage.
Sante, very mobile champion.
I thought he was a tank.
He is a tank, a mobile tank.
I feel like that's not allowed. We shouldn't have that option for tanks. But Portal Gaming for Evil Geniuses, as the next dragon is not going to be up for another 2.5 minutes, but they have this Baron to work with, and so far, the answer is push through bot lane, get vision control on the bottom jungle quadrant. Oh, this is quite adventurous into the heart of darkness here. Bugi has no idea how many members are here, Bugi. Yeah, that jungle does not belong to you, my friend.
Yep, EG coming to retake their territory. Thank you very much for our blue quadrant of your jungle. It should allow them a pretty easy rotation over towards bottom side with this Baron buff. That secondary tower will go down fairly quickly. And Evil Geniuses on a 23-minute pace here should keep it up. Mid lane wave actually pretty far away with the extra clear here, so they just try and split and have 3 transition people, Unforgiven, Eyla, and Armao, keeping full vision control of the jungle. What they can do here, the idea, keep this dark so that you have easy access to rotate back over to the other pushing lane.
Yeah.
Just do your 4-1 split push. And Armao actually goes for the dive.
Glacial Prison, Paranoia, turns out the lights. Ruby goes golden. And it looks like the engage is stopped here for now from Evil Geniuses, but the pressure gives them that turret for free.
Exactly. It's always a good trade for EG, no matter what. With Baron buff, even when getting ult trades and health trades off here, they're able to get the objective in the aftermath and continue taking away TSM territory. Chime trying to watch this red, but there's nothing he can do by himself except watch. So Hexgate, a rival of Ruby. Armao does have Smite.
Oh, do they actually want to fight this fight? I guess Armao is cut off from the rest of the pack here. Evil Geniuses, though, give him a breath of life thanks to Eyla, and they turn the fight on its head. TSM thought that they were able to catch out Armao, but he's too tanky to take down. Ruby is forced to flash over the wall, but Jojo's going to answer with a flash of his own as he slices him down to shreds. TSM now on the back foot. Evil Geniuses making their way through the mid lane. There's another dragon coming up in 20 seconds, but they're going to look for the push on the inhibitor instead.
Raafaa, this EG looking like they definitely deserve #1 spot in the LCS. After this game, they will be alone in first until we continue the day. And they have absolutely smashed it for a team that just exploded in summer, was completely rebuilt around Jojo with way less money, by the way. They are dominating the LCS. So let's take a little listen in on their comms as well.
You just don't have to be scared.
Don't be scared.
Tell me if you leave bot lane. Tell me TP, you're fighting. Give me TP word.
I have aftershock.
I'm TPing.
I'm zoning Kai'Sa.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
I'm zoning Kai'Sa. We have mid wave.
I'm going crazy.
Yeah, we got it. We have mid wave, okay?
We come mid then.
They're fighting me.
Coming.
The main call, don't be scared. I love it. Watching it, I was thinking, oh, maybe Armao will just come over and smite the red buff, but they just wanted to fight the entire time, and they got it. Good chase. I have to say, Unforgiven, the Varus ultimate does so much there. Being able to keep them around for the arrival time of Jojo's teleport so that Jojo can then follow with his solo bound, with his flash, to be able to get the extra kill. And you can hear the comms from each member the entire time. Revenge updating them on mid-wave as well. We have mid-wave. They're on me now. Let's rotate back. And this team is not wasting any time. 26 minutes. They successfully got their kills on the teleport play and got the mid inhibitor. So should be able to keep it up with Soul on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, Soul will be coming up in just under 5 minutes. The nice thing for Evil Geniuses, if you've gotten a chance to watch their week 1 comms versus now, there's even a little bit of difference in how efficient the comms are. Because week 1, it used to be super chaotic. A lot of information was being fed, but now a lot of the info is very brief and succinct from each member. Because now they know it's like, okay, what is all do I need to communicate to my member now? But Revenge?
I will also say, comms are so easy when you're 11,500 gold ahead. Because, yeah, basically the only message you have to deliver is, don't be scared. We are so far ahead. Just keep them there long enough for me to fight them because we will dunk on them. And they are able to do that. The dunking has occurred, and the dunking is still occurring right now.
So let's look on the flip side here, Kobe, because we knew that this was going to be a really tough game for Ruby to make his debut on. All things considered, I mean, he went down in CS against Jojo early, which we expected. He didn't get to do
all
that much.
All 3 lanes did, yeah.
All 3 lanes did. This is a very tough team to play against at TSM, which was expected. I don't think he's doing bad. He's not necessarily doing great, but, you know, he's not a detriment to TSM at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they lost the whole map, so... Yeah, it is. I definitely say, yeah, like pinpointing anything is a little difficult here, since with all 3 losing lanes, it is usually and should be impossible to win a game of League of Legends. unless something is too crazy with the amount of scaling difference, and there just simply isn't that available right now, as we did see the escape there. No flash now for WildTurtle, but good execution from EG to be able to snowball this one. I don't think it's going to be too difficult for them to continue either, since Baron is on the map, and guess what? You've got Varus ultimate, Sejuani ultimate ready to go for another turn.
Yeah.
And they still have vision control of, actually, Revenge?
Do they have a pick on the Revenge? Maybe. He still has a flash to work with, and he flashes the Emperor's Divide. Gonna get tethered by that fear, but he's got the dominance. He's got enough life sustain, and now he's gonna turn it right back onto Ruby because he has the core trigger for the Omni Slash, and he just bites him down. Bugi now on the run. He has a flash to work with, but Armao is leading the charge here, so that flash I don't think is just gonna do anything as Jojo still takes him out. Chime trying to get WildTurtle out, and Revenge is gonna go for a cheeky teleport just in their face because they want to close this game out fast.
That is one angry crocodile. Evil Geniuses inside the base. Can they finish it now? Mid inhibitor's already down. Bottom inhibitor down now, and all that's left.
Onto the Nexus turret. First one falling to Evil Geniuses. Hauntzer doing everything he can to stall it out. They find one on Armao, but it easily gets traded on back onto Hauntzer, and the number advantage for Evil Geniuses is enough so that they can lay waste to the final remains of TSM's base. And while we did expect it, it's still always a damn good sight to see Evil Geniuses dominating the LCS Summer Split with another win in Week 3.
The value pickups here all coming together on Evil Geniuses, and they are your #1 team in the LCS.
Current sole possession at the top of the standings until Cloud9 gets a chance to play Immortals later at the end of the day. Now, unless the Immortals play Spoiler, I imagine that Cloud9 will be joining them again, but we have to look back at the start of the season, because I know you highlighted it in the middle of the game, Kobe. This is not the expectation that the community had for how Evil Geniuses Summer Split was going to go.
Certainly isn't really well done by these players. All of them getting these chances. All of them have these backstories of needing to get different hurdles overcome, finally getting their chance as starting players on starting roster coming together around Jojo, and Jojo going back to Korea with the hyperbolic time chamber training arc successful here, so very happy to see it.
Revenge as well having a pretty stellar game on the Renekton. I know that he's mostly been on tank duty this Summer Split, but getting a chance to play a more lane-dominant champion here is always nice to flex that. A lot of top laners were talking about how Revenge is getting kind of slept on, you know, and the team environment just needs to change, and now that he's on Evil Geniuses, it looks like he is finally getting to flourish as a top laner that he always wanted himself to be.
Yeah, people saying Revenge is slept on in the top lane, give him a chance with a better team. Guess what? Unforgiven slept on as well in Academy. Guess what? Armao slept on as well.
Real.
Had to be a coach. Was in Challengers for so long. Nobody was sleeping on Jojo, so that he doesn't really fit the mold, but they kept him around.
He just had to bounce back from the streaks.
And Eyla getting another chance after the rough time on FlyQuest with all that went on there, and that's why it's nice to see this team getting their second chances, all coming together, being at the very top as well, overperforming people's expectations, and not looking like they are going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, absolute vindication for these members. But for us, hey, LCS fans, Fantasy LCS is happening on Sleeper right now. It's not too late to sign up and start a league with your friends and then crush their dreams with your own LCS super team. So you can head on over to sleeper.com or sleeper.app to give it a try. And for now, we're going to be joining Emily and Revenge on stage for a Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you very much, Raafaa. I am joined by the victorious Revenge. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the things that I keep hearing from you, because we filmed some content that has yet to come out, is you keep saying, oh my gosh, my team is so good. So I did, without throwing too much shade, like, you are on a team that is doing incredibly well. How is that feeling for you specifically? Because I think a lot of teams you've been on previously have struggled a lot in the LCS.
Well, I think it's definitely a change of pace, because I feel like especially last split, I felt like I was playing at a really good level, but I still wasn't winning. So people recognize that, and I feel like now it's much different when you're actually playing well and you win. And I do think that I've been showing versatility as well. Like that's why I really wanted to come into this split, showing that I can play everything, like any style. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people saw me playing tanks at the start of the split, and I guess they forgot I can also carry. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So obviously you were dirty farming on Renekton at a very early point in this game. I did want to talk to you about that though, because I do feel like your role on this team has been a little bit different than on teams we've seen you in the past, where you were a carry threat, sometimes the only carry threat, and you were typically going to side lanes to create split push pressure. Wow, I can't talk today. But on this team, you do a lot more like zoning, especially in team fights. Like there was one team around Baron where obviously you're on Renekton, which is more of a carry, but you were also zoning off the entire team as kind of the front. So what's it been like going to more of a tank mindset, not just like the champion picks themselves?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people misunderstand top lane and I guess like what I do, or I guess what the meta is. Like I always just play what I think is the best for us to win the game. And honestly, like I don't think a lot of teams have been testing us in draft, especially like the first couple of weeks that we played. And it's made it really easy for me to just lock in anything, honestly, and win. But at the same time, I feel like as a tank or as a non-carry, I feel like it's actually harder to, I guess, play, in my opinion, and show. I guess like it's harder for people to even see what you're doing in the game that's winning the games, right? Like, and I feel like, so I don't mind that people, I guess, interpret top lane that way, but for me, it's like, I enjoy playing that style of the game because I feel like it's harder and I feel like it actually is something that I've worked a lot on. And to me, I think playing carries is easy. And honestly, teams will give me that angle and I will also carry. So I feel like it's going to be really hard to beat our team.
What is the role of top lane right now? So I feel like there's been a lot of chatter around it, maybe not having as much of an impact. Since you have talked about kind of making that adjustment, what do you think the role of top lane is in the current meta?
I think it just depends on what your bot lane is playing. And also, yeah, it just really depends on what your bot lane is playing and what your comp needs. I feel like right now top lane can carry. And I feel like it can also, I mean, the meta has actually changed a lot recently, especially this last patch. So I feel like now people will be playing tanks a lot less. I feel like they're way harder to play. So that's also just because of like enchanters being nerfed. But in the previous patches, enchanters were really strong. So I felt like bot lane was too OP. So being a frontline champ was really important. But now I feel like top lane's becoming a lot more creative. So that makes me happy.
Nice. Well, all the best. Hopefully we'll see some creative picks from you as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And on the other side of the break, we have FlyQuest taking on Team Liquid Honda.
But Chime, masked by the darkness of paranoia, finds a nasty flank onto the backline of Evil Geniuses, but do they have the damage to back it on up? Bugi is forced to flash, the shutdown goes over the revenge, and Evil Geniuses find vengeance and strike true into the heart of TSM. And I guess Armao is cut off from the rest of the pack here. Evil Geniuses, though, give him a breath of life thanks to Eyla, and they turn the fight on its head. TSM thought that they were able to catch out Armao, but he's too tanky to take down. Ruby is forced to flash over the wall, but Jojo's going to answer with a flash of his own as he slices him down to shreds.
I've got the Samsung 990 Pro series. Shall we get started then? This speed exceeds all expectations. Reading speeds are 40% quicker than before, and writing speeds are 55% faster. Through the in-house controller, the per watt performance has improved up to 50%. The 990 Pro's nickel coating controller for its smart thermal solution technology controls you. Playing computer games? Obviously the best.